My name is Mike, and this is my garage. So I've got 3 Corvettes. I know, I was surprised too. No, not really, because ultimately one day I want to have one of every generation. So that means right now I need 5 more Corvettes. Tall order, maybe, but we got the most expensive ones out of the way. Well, no, not necessarily. The C1 may be the hardest Corvette to get, but let's take a look at these beauties and let me tell you what I think of my 2023 C8 HTC hardtop convertible Corvette. So far, kind of loving it. Welcome to Mike's garage. That's right, it's my garage. Might be a little echoey because, well, I don't have a lot of stuff in it, but I do. I've got my 3 Corvettes. And I have to say, I absolutely love Corvettes. Now, I'm not saying that the C8 is not a Corvette, but it's definitely different. It's special. Just like this one's special and the C2 is special. Now, it's raining outside, so obviously I'm not gonna take my cars for a drive. Not that they're gonna melt, but because it's a lot of work. Cleaning it, well, actually, I should take the C8 because it's dusty right now, and it'd be nice to clean her up. I should have cleaned it up before this video, but I didn't. So far my first impressions of the C8 is absolutely love it. You know, and I'm not even pulling punches. I love it. I didn't get the Z51 because my C7 is a Z51 and I haven't tracked the car. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the gear ratio of the Z51. I like the Z51 wheels. I like having the option, and I probably would have got it on the C8 if I could have afforded it. And it's not that I couldn't afford it, but you know, you gotta ask where to draw the line. And for me, I was like, you know, I don't think I need the Z71 and Z51, not 71. 71 is a pickup, and I don't really like the Z51 rear spoiler on a C8. So this car was actually a stock car, bought it off the lot. I was lucky enough to find one available brand new in Alberta, and they had already done the wheels, the front spoiler or splitter, side skirts, and rear spoiler. Now, I really like this rear spoiler because I don't even know what brand it is, to tell you the truth. And there's a little smudge in my wrap there because I did get the whole car PPF'd, paint protection film, if you will. And but I actually didn't want a wing at all, but I like this one because it's not overly pronounced. If I was gonna get a wing or choose a wing, I really like the Z06 wing because that to me looks like a good wing. Used to like the high wing, but I don't really care for it. But hey, it's personal preference. That's the beauty. There are 1,001 options to personalize your car. Like I said in the other video, I wanted the hardtop convertible because after having, and you know, I'm a little bit spoiled here, but after having the coupe with the hardtop, with the target top that comes off, and I've got both tops. I've got the other top sitting right there, so it's not like this one is the clear top. Now, I must add, I got it wrapped with some vinyl film so that it looks really good. Like to me, if you've got a C8 or a C7 with the target top, you gotta get the color match on the sides, because when you see the cars, especially the C8 with the painted roof, painted A-pillars, and then a black top, it doesn't look good, in my opinion. So, but all you gotta do is take it to a wrap shop. It cost me like, I don't even think it was like $100. Maybe it was $100. I don't remember, but it was nothing. It was great little mod that just adds to the look. But what I was gonna say is why I wanted the hardtop convertible, and I'll pop the trunk here. Trunk, is it a trunk? Hatch. So when the roof is in here, we've got the latches there and here that it clips into, but then it's sitting like this and it eats up all your storage space. And it's happened more than once where Andrea and I have taken the car to Costco and, you know, because it's Sunday, you want to take the car for a drive. And just because you're going to Costco or Target or Walmart, why not take the car? But but then when you fill the trunk full of stuff, you gotta put the roof on, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. So that was, for me, a big reason why I wanted the hardtop convertible. Now, obviously, being able to see the engine would be absolutely fantastic, but you know, you gotta give up something. And I can't see the engine in this one when it's parked. So, you know, maybe if I bought a 24 model, I'd get the clear cover so you could see it, or at least show it to people. You know, I'm not really a car show guy. You know, I don't know if I'm just don't like sitting there and waiting all day, or don't, anyways, I haven't been a big car show guy. So if you did go to a car show, you could have your convertible hatch up and see your car. And when I say car, I mean engine. So that's why I wanted this in this car, so that when I pop the trunk, and I think I have the key in my pocket. I was right, I do. Yeah, you still have a usable trunk space. Now this, of course, doesn't have as much room as the C7, or at least it doesn't feel like it, but you also have the front. So you got the back trunk and the front trunk, and you know, you got a little net here, and it's pretty handy. But the one thing that I have noticed so far with driving the C8 is there's not as much room inside the car. So if we look in the C7, let's come in here, and you look behind the seats, like you've got a shelf, you can put stuff there. So I'm assuming if you're on a nice long drive or a cruise, which I really haven't done either. I have 22,000 kilometers on this car. It's 7 years old. And the most it's done is drive back and forth to work. Actually, no, we drove it to Bear Lake once, which is only like an hour drive away from home. And that is one thing that I deeply regret. Now, granted, a person has to work to pay for these things, but I don't want to do that with the C8. I don't want to do it with this one anymore. We want to do more long drives, trips, if you will. Of course, helps that the kids are a little older. So anyways, beauty of the C7 and the coupe is you have the rear deck where you can put things like your hat, maybe toss a light jacket back there, small cooler bag with drinks, the wife's purse. But with the C8, the one thing that I've noticed so far, and I really love this natural dipped interior, like it is, feels posh, man. But if you look behind the seat, there's no storage, like nothing, nada. So basically anything that you're gonna store has to be on the floor. You can maybe sit, I mean, you might be able to set something behind the seat. Yeah, but it could fall down and get wedged. And so yeah, that's one of the things that I noticed about the C8, that it's like, you know what, on a road trip, you're gonna have to pack more stuff in your trunks. But small price to pay to have an engine behind you that sounds great. Now, that's the second talking point. The other thing that I noticed with the C8, I don't have the NPP exhaust, which is one thing that I really wanted. But there again, this being a stock car that I bought, they didn't put it on. Why didn't they put it on? I don't know. Whoever was ordering it was crazy, because they should have put it on. Because it's too quiet. I mean, it sounds really good. If I didn't want to make a lot of noise, and not that you want to make a lot of noise, you just want to hear it. But part of the thing about having a Corvette is appealing to all the senses. That's why I wanted a 3LT, because it appeals to the smell. The smell of the Alcantara appeals to that sense. The exhaust appeals to your ears, the sound. They sound so good, but I don't know whether it's just because the engine's behind you, but you can't hear it. Well, I shouldn't say that. You can hear it, but it's quiet, it's peaceful. The NPP exhaust, from what I hear, does make a difference, because then it has the valves that open. And it does add 5 horsepower. So right now, this car has 490 horsepower. If it had those valves and you open them, then it's 495. So I did the right thing, and I ordered an exhaust. Now, what did I order? I ordered the Corsa Extreme, which, I don't know, maybe it's gonna be too loud, but it's the one that you get without the valves. So we're gonna try it. I've listened to a lot of YouTube videos. It sounds good, so we're gonna give it a whirl. And on this channel, we're gonna install it. Now, I ordered it a week ago. I think it was last weekend, and it hasn't shipped yet. So that's a little disappointing, because I actually could have bought it on Amazon and it'd probably be here by now. But anyways, it's a story for another day. So the exhaust, it's too quiet. My tips are dirty. Yeah, like I said, I need to wash the car. But the new tips from the Corsa are gonna be around. and I'm quite excited to hear how that sounds. And part of why I'm not worried, I was gonna say you might ask, well, Mike, but then you can't make it loud and quiet. Well, on my C7, I have the MPP exhaust, and I have the valves open all the time because it sounds so good. Now, the C7, the exhaust with the performance exhaust is like perfect. You can make it quiet, although I've never done that because why would you want it to be silent? If you're just like idling or cruising, it's not like absurdly loud, but when you get on it, it sounds so good. You hear the pops coming out of the exhaust when you shift, it's like, and I'm sorry, that was a bad example, but it sounds really good. So these ones, I have the valve, or this one, I have the valves open all the time. So with the C8, that's why I wasn't worried about, having an exhaust without the valves, because odds are I probably would never close them anyways. And if you don't want to make a lot of noise, just don't make a lot of noise. Just idle along, and I think it'll be fine. So those are a couple of things about the C8 that I've noticed so far. And the other thing is where the e-brake switch is. It's a little bit, it's not as nice as a C7. So the e-brake switch is down here, right there. I was thinking about getting the fitted liners just because, anyways, let me know in the comments. Should a guy get the fitted liners so you don't have to crawl in here and vacuum it all the time? In the C7, I use carpet. No, in the C7, I use towels to put down, but I find the towels bunch up, and then I was thinking, maybe you should just get the floor liners, Mike, and then you don't have to worry about the gravel getting into your carpet. But I don't know, what do you think? Leave me a comment. But yeah, so here's your parking brake. It's not, it's a little hard to get to. I mean, it's not terrible, but, and I'm sure once I get used to it, it'll be a little easier, but I don't find it the easiest of spots to get to, where in the C7, it's like super easy. In the C7, I use the park brake all the time because it's just right here, right there, just doot, and your park brake's set. And I really like that. And some might say that the C8 is not a Corvette. Well, let me tell you, it is totally a Corvette. But Corvette is changing with the times, like, oh my God. That being said, I've driven my C8 on the weekend, and I love it, and driven the C7 to work because everybody knows about the C7, so we're trying to keep it on the down low because you get razzed enough when you have a Corvette, let alone 3. I don't know why, but yeah, so I truly love the C7. This is my first Corvette. Back in 2016, for Father's Day, I bought this car, and it was not a mistake. I do not regret it at all. The only thing I do regret is not driving it enough. So, is the C7 the last of the true sports car? Corvette front engine? I don't think so. I think it's maybe the end of an era because it's the last year with the front engine and manual transmission. Now, I would like to get one day or try a C7 with a manual transmission. I do like the automatic when you're just cruising, but now that I have a couple cars, I don't need to have them all in automatic, but all the next generations are gonna have automatics or hybrid systems. So that is the cool thing about the C7. It is the last generation to get a manual transmission and the last one with front engine. And the one thing I do have to say about it is it does feel more like a muscle car. It doesn't necessarily drive like a muscle car, but it just has a little bit of, and I haven't had many muscle cars. Okay, I haven't had any muscle cars. But to me, it feels more like a muscle car. And the C8 to me feels more like a luxury sports car. And maybe the opinions will change because I mean, I have only had this car for, oh shoot, when did I get it? I guess I've had it for like 3 weeks now. And let me tell you, hands down, great purchase. Now, can I afford it? We're gonna find out. We're gonna make us afford it because one of the things I want to say to you guys, if you're thinking about getting a Corvette and you've loved and dreamed about them your whole life or whatever, Don't financially ruin yourself to do it, but you know what? Sometimes you gotta stretch out of your comfort zone a little bit and make it hurt a little bit. And when I say make it hurt a little bit, it's not that it has to hurt, but you gotta make your priorities. Like for me, I absolutely love my cars. I love Corvettes. So to get one, I'm gonna sacrifice, have a higher payment, and you know, I don't smoke, don't really drink that much. So any, what would you call it, disposable income, I dump into my cars. And the cool thing is, I paid, now Princess was used when I got her, which is the C7. I paid $75,000. It had 471 kilometers, only 400. That's like probably, I don't know, 300 miles or something. The guy went there to buy a Z06. They sold the Z06, so he bought this one, and they didn't think they could get another allocation for a Z06 in 2016. His plan was to trade it in. They got him another allocation, so basically he took the car home, parked it. When his Z06 came in, he brought it down on a trailer to not mile it up, and he traded it right in like, I don't even think it was 6 months later. So I bought this car in June, was it June of 2016? It was Father's Day. And I think the car went into service that previous spring, so it was probably like April or something like that. So anyways, Princess was not very old. But the fun fact is this car right now is still worth $75,000 7 years later. I know, it's mind-blowing. Inflation, I guess. But so what I'm trying to say is I had high payments, financed it over 7 years. I put a good chunk down, not a huge chunk, because let me tell you, it's hard to come up with a chunk. And any chance I got some spare income or spare money, I just dumped it on the car, paid it off early, and then I bought my next Corvette, which was this one, Prince. This is a 1964, I mean, you've probably seen it on the channel if you follow the channel at all, but if you're new to the channel, this is my 1964 Corvette Stingray Coupe. And let me tell you, if you want to talk about classic, iconic cars, this has got to be the most iconic car, if not one of the most iconic cars of all time. Now, there again, this car wasn't necessarily, well, it was kind of planned because Andrea and I had always talked about we want to get one of every generation one day. But it just so happened we restructured some things. We were able to buy this one on a line of credit that we had just got, and I got a great, great deal on this car. And this car is better than I could have imagined. Now, is this better than the other two? In some ways, yes, it actually is. In a lot of ways, no, it's not even close. Cool factor, when you're cruising down the road in this car, it is hands down, gets the most looks, the most attention. It sounds good, it's fun to drive, but it's fun to drive in a classic car kind of way. It's comfortable, but she's hot. It's one thing with these coupes, they are warm. This one doesn't have AC. Now it is the, it has the, what would you call it? The 327, I was gonna say Super Sport, but that's not it. But it's got the high performance 327. So it was a 365 horse, 4-speed car, no power steering, no air conditioning. So you can see on the tach, red line is 6,500 RPM, and hands down, this is such a fun car to drive. Would I take it on a long trip? No. For one, it's, I think, too valuable, too special, but it's finicky. You know, you've got the carburetor. This one, I do have to do some tuning on the carburetor because when it gets hot, it starts to run rough and it gets boggy at low RPM, and that's really annoying. So I need to play with the carb. These cars, they also run kind of hot. It's well known that C2s quite often have heating issues. And in fact, Corvette increased the maximum temperature on the temperature gauge in the car because they were running so hot that they just, we'll just make 280 the norm. So, but it does run good, when, like on the highway or in cool weather. This car loves cool weather. But 365 horse, 427, 4-speed transmission. Of course, with a manual transmission in this, it is so fun to drive, like so fun. So with my classics, and when I say classics, I kind of only have this one, but one day there'll be more. I think I'm gonna try and get more manuals. So Andrea really wants to get a C3 in a manual. So once we get, once we get the C8 paid down, get things a little, you know, let the old credit limit cool off, we'll start looking for one of those. But yeah, so absolutely love the C2, absolutely love the classic V8. Now this car, another thing that you have to be cautious of, or I do, it's got a single master cylinder, which they do not make cars like that anymore because it's dangerous. If something happens to one of your brake lines, all your brakes go out. Whereas modern cars, or even not even that modern cars, have dual master cylinders. So if one system fails, the other one doesn't. They're sealed, you know, separate systems. So I could change it if I was going to drive the car lots and lots. I would change it, but I'm not driving this car lots. I mean, I got two other ones for that. But this is truly the Sunday cruiser, go for ice cream. And that being said, I would take this car to a car show somewhere, but I'd probably want to trailer it. Just because I feel like it's too nice and it's an iconic classic. But the other fun thing with this car that I learned after I bought it is it has original Kelsey Hayes knockoffs. Now, if you know, you know. When you look at the wheels, yeah, they're knockoffs. They don't have, or I should say they didn't come with, I'm just gonna shut the battery tender off. One of the things I like to do is disconnect the battery on this car because the original clock still works in the dash. And one thing about those clocks is when you have them just sitting with the power in, they just sit there in the second, because the second hand actually spins. Eventually they crap out because they just sit there and spin and spin and spin for years and years and years. So I want to keep my clock working, but I don't want to wear it out. So that's why I disconnect the battery. Otherwise I'd leave it hooked up because let's face it, there's not that much electronic on this car to drain a battery, but I don't want to wreck my clock. But yeah, so anyways, getting back to the wheels, original Kelsey Hayes wheels, and I discovered by Googling it that they're kind of valuable because they only made them for so long because they're dangerous. Now, there again, some have said, Mike, you should take those off your car and put other wheels on. And if I was gonna like say, take this car to California, I would do that. But for Sunday driver, I just check to make sure my wheels are tight. And I think it's all part of the history of the car. And I mean, look at that. Like it's gorgeous. So probably one of the coolest cars of all time, you know, 1 year after the split window. So split window is like an iconic car because of the split window, but 64, absolutely love it. My first car was a 64 Impala. Still trying to find one of those too, but maybe not right this second because we got the C8 to pay for. So, and I love it. But yeah, I don't know if that answers the question as to which one is the best, but I think they are all fantastic for their point in time. You know, is that kind of a lame cop-out answer? Maybe, but I think they have the best of all worlds. C7, super comfortable. I've never driven a C5 or a C6, but they tell me that the interior was a huge upgrade. I love the interior. It's like a little more sophisticated muscle car in my opinion. The C2, hands down, one of the coolest classics ever. Design is like, I love the design of the old cars. They had so much soul to them, if you know what I mean. The C8, it's on a whole nother level. Is it still a Corvette? Absolutely, but shout out to Chevy for building the future of Corvette and not just sticking to the usual. The only thing I hope is that they don't price them out to where the average man like you or I can't afford them. But anyways, if you want to buy one and you can't afford it, just ask yourself, what do I have to do in order to be able to afford it? I know that's what I did, which is why I got lots of side hustles going on, let me tell you. But the C8 is, I wouldn't call it a muscle car, but I also don't know that I would call it a supercar. I've never driven a supercar, but I definitely say it's closer to a supercar than it is to a muscle car. So it's kind of like a luxury sports car. So it's knocking on the door. But anyways, guys, that's it for me. Thanks for watching. Please hit that like button, subscribe down below if you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for another video because I think we're gonna have to take this car on a road trip. Where? Not sure, but the anniversary's coming up, so stay tuned. Thanks, guys.